We've all seen that classic teen movie and high school anime cliché, the popular, picture-perfect, untouchable girl who, ironically, ends up falling for the awkward, outcast nerd in the class. It's a formula as old as time, popping up in just about every feel-good rom-com you can think of. But then along comes today's anime, Horimiya. At first glance, it might seem like it's going to follow that same tired script, but this show grabs the stereotype and flips it completely on its head. At school, they keep up appearances, but once they're outside those gates, it's a whole different story. Hori is basically a stressed-out homemaker, juggling house chores and family responsibilities. And that so-called gloomy nerd, Miyamura, turns out he's rocking piercings, tattoos, and a laid-back emo vibe that's anything but boring. The magic of this story isn't just in the romance, it's in how it subverts expectations. It's about the social masks we all wear to survive high school, and the relief of finding someone who sees the real you underneath it all. So get ready, because today, we're diving back into the story of Horimiya, the ultimate proof that judging a book by its cover might just be your biggest mistake. We open in the middle of a classroom, with the teacher saying goodbye to the kids for their last summer before the study grind for college entrance exams. As soon as he leaves, the girls comment that the teacher is kinda handsome, but sometimes says some really clueless stuff. Speaking of guys, Hori seems to be the most popular girl in school. Some guy from another school even tried to get her number, but since he was too chicken to ask her directly, she already told her friends straight up, no way are they giving him her contact info. In the middle of their chat, her friends, Toru and Yuki, invite the whole gang for some karaoke, since they got a hold of some discount coupons. Hori, as usual, says she can't go. The gang is already used to her bailing, and that's when our other protagonist, Miyamura, enters the story. He's a kind of gloomy guy who hands Hori her phone, which she had dropped. The general consensus is that he's a weirdo nerd, maybe an otaku, with no friends. Hori checks her watch and bolts out of school. The group wonders if she has a secret boyfriend, but the reality is something else entirely. She goes straight home to basically become the lady of the house. Since her mom works overtime, Hori is the one who cleans everything, makes dinner, and even picks up her little brother, Sota. This is the double life nobody knows about. Back at home, Sota shows up at the door all scraped up after a fall, saying that a guy covered in piercings helped him out. Hori invites the Good Samaritan inside to thank him and, surprise, it's Miyamura, but with a completely different look, like a punk rocker. He talks about how Sota is a polite but mischievous kid. Miyamura, in turn, is shocked to see Hori in full-on domestic mode. She's startled that he even knows who she is, and he replies that it would be weird not to, since they're in the same class. The next day, Hori's mind is racing. The Miyamura at school and the Miyamura outside of school are two completely different people. Her little brother, Sota, loved the piercing guy, and asks Hori to invite him over again. Miyamura accepts immediately. He confesses he thought she would ignore him after discovering his secrets, but Hori says it's no big deal. After all, she's a different person outside of school too. They're similar in that way, like Clark Kent and Superman, each with their secret identity. Miyamura gets all flustered because he's not used to getting compliments. With his constant visits, Hori learns more about him. His family owns a bakery. He's not an otaku, and his grades are awful, which completely shatters the glasses-wearing nerd stereotype. During one of these visits, Hori gives him a super important mission: buy eggs while they're on sale at the market the next day, even though he has a student council meeting. Obviously, he accepts. To make it in time, he takes a shortcut and runs right into Yuki, Hori's friend. He figures she didn't recognize him with his bad boy look. After successfully getting the eggs, exhausted, he tells Hori everything. She gets a little weird and blurts out that she doesn't want anyone else to see him like that. Miyamura confesses that he feels the same way about her. Seeing Hori all relaxed and without makeup at home is a moment he feels is just for him. The vibe is broken by Sota, but the tension lingers. Miyamura says it's not that he dislikes how she looks at school, but this domestic version of her is much cuter. And just like that, they begin to share this side of themselves that no one else knows. The weather starts getting hotter, and that's a huge problem for Miyamura, because on top of the piercings, the guy also has hidden tattoos. If the school decides to have swimming lessons, he's screwed. Meanwhile, everyone at school notices the two are spending way too much time together. Because of this, our rival for the moment, Toru, gets straight to the point and asks Miyamura if he and Hori are dating. Miyamura denies it and even adds that they wouldn't be a good match, making it clear that not even he believes that. Toru then asks if he can ask Hori out. In the locker room, he notices that Miyamura refuses to take off his winter uniform and ends up discovering his tattoos. The secret is starting to leak. On the rooftop, Toru promises to keep the secret, but wants to know why he's so close to Hori. Miyamura says he thinks she's just being nice and that they're just friends. And what do you know? Toru actually asks Hori out. Meanwhile, Miyamura goes to pick up Sota. Later at home, Hori confronts Miyamura, asking why the hell he said they weren't a good match. She's on the verge of tears, furious that he thought she'd care about her reputation. Her sadness turns to anger in the blink of an eye, and she practically forbids him from stopping his visits. Yeah, it looks like their friendship status just got an update. Another day, Miyamura accompanies Hori on a shopping trip. Lost in her own world, she starts singing an anime theme song, and he compliments her voice. Hori says she learned it from hearing her brother sing it all the time, but the truth is, she knows nothing about current popular music. Back at home, a surprise. Hori's mom is there. Sota, all excited, immediately spills the beans that Miyamura is awesome and comes over every day. Her mom, curious, asks if this friend is handsome. Hori, not knowing what to say, describes him as gloomy. Great way to describe your crush, right? During this chat, she has a horrible realization. She spends a ton of time with the guy and doesn't even know his first name, and so begins Operation Find Out Crush's first name. She tries to spy on him but fails miserably. She even considers invading the boys' locker room but realizes that's going too far. Her mom, who's nobody's fool, figures out the situation and sets a trap to meet the boy. She sends Hori out on an errand just so she can be alone with him. And of course, Miyamura introduces himself with his full name, Izumi Miyamura. By the time Hori gets back, her mom has already left for work and she missed her chance. Miyamura can't stop laughing at her. To tease her even more, he writes his name on a piece of paper. She tries to say Izumi out loud, but is mortified with embarrassment. Trying to get back at him, she asks if he knows her first name, and obviously, he does. Kyouko. The result? Hori is 100% humiliated.
My first name is I was about yours.
No, it's Kyouko.
The hole I'm digging keeps getting deeper.
Changing the subject, we find out Hori is basically a doormat for the student council. She does all the work they ask, especially for the president, Sengoku, because she just can't say no. Her friend Yuki warns her that they're using her, but Hori doesn't seem to care. The other girls think she has a crush on the president. To make matters worse, the president's girlfriend, Remy, is a total slacker who dumps all her work on Hori. One day, this Remy bumps into Miyamura, is super rude, and tells him to throw away some papers. But Miyamura sees that they are important budget documents. The next day, the council is grilling Hori, saying a document is missing. Sengoku blames her. That's when Miyamura decides to step in. He takes off his glasses, and we all know that when an anime character takes off their glasses, things are about to get serious. He walks up to the president, and without saying a word, lands a solid headbutt right in his face. With everyone's jaw on the floor, he hands over the papers and reveals that it was Remy who told him to throw them away. The girl tries to deny it, but no one buys it. The council apologizes to Hori, and she thanks Miyamura. The question remains, why the headbutt? His answer is simple. That guy was getting on my nerves.
I didn't need to. He was just really pissing me off.
But there's a plot twist. Hori and Sengoku have known each other since they were kids, and back then, Hori was the one who bullied him and treated him like a pet. He said things would change, but apparently, that's why she can't say no to him. Time passes, and Hori's birthday is approaching. Sota worries that Miyamura will stop visiting during the holidays, and Hori realizes she'd be pretty sad if that happened too. On her birthday, Sota gives her a drawing. Miyamura, however, surprises her with the perfect gift, a CD of current popular music, exactly what she wanted. She thinks about what a strange guy he is, but how he seems to read her mind. Little does she know, their third year of high school is about to shake up this relationship even more. We get a glimpse into Miyamura's emo past. He was always the weird, lonely kid in class, the target of jokes. In an act of teenage rebellion, he started piercing his own ears. The flashback shows that Hori was the first person to approach him without prejudice, treating him like a normal guy. Back in the present, a new school year begins, and by some miracle, the entire main crew, Hori, Miyamura, Toru, and Yuki, ends up in the same class. Miyamura, who has always been alone, still feels like a fish out of water, but this time, his friends include him in the group as if it's the most natural thing in the world. He's not alone anymore. One day, Toru asks Miyamura to talk on the roof. He lays it all out, saying he finds Miyamura too reserved and hates seeing him chat with Hori, but he also admits that he's a good guy and that, when he ties his hair up, he's prettier than a lot of girls. Miyamura, dense as ever, only focuses on the prettier part. Miyamura finally calls Toru by his first name, gets super embarrassed, and Toru tells him that that being weird isn't a bad thing. It seems a beautiful friendship has been born, except the next day, Miyamura goes back to calling him by his last name. Go figure. Meanwhile, Hori has been pensive. Remy, the slacker girl from the council, sits with her and gets straight to the point. Are you and Miyamura dating? I think he's cute. Hori denies it. So, Remy drops the bomb. Then I can ask him out, right? Hori freezes. Just imagining it. Her possessiveness kicks in hard and she blurts out, "That's not happening. He's mine." Remy shoots back that it's not fair if they're just friends. But Hori doubles down.
There's no dibs. He's mine.
What? Hold on. Why not?
Because I don't want to. That's why.
As soon as she walks away, reality hits her, and she feels like an idiot because technically, he doesn't belong to her. Later, at her house, the vibe is straight out of a horror movie. Literally, they're watching one. The small talk leads to a sweet moment where they compare hands. Hori takes the initiative and holds his hand. She whispers that she likes his hands. Miyamura, who has the density of a black hole, compliments how well his hands hold a pencil. But then, out of nowhere, he says, in the calmest voice ever, "I like you too." A dead silence hangs in the air. Hori just processes the information like her brain just crashed.
I like yours too.
Yeah? You said that already.
The next day, Miyamura shows up at school with a bruised face. He says he got into a fight with Toru. Hori is pissed, not believing her friend would do that. But when Toru walks into the classroom, he looks like he's been hit by a truck. Miyamura later confesses to Yuki that actually, he only took the first hit and then beat the crap out of Toru. Miyamura is like a chihuahua that fights like a pit bull. In a flashback, we learn the reason for the fight. Toru was trying to play Cupid and tell Miyamura that Hori was into him. But Miyamura, being Miyamura, thought he was joking. Toru got annoyed with his friend's denseness, gave him a shove. Miyamura retaliated on reflex, and things escalated from there. He even tried to use the self-defense excuse, but confessed he was also kind of fed up with Toru. Back in the present, Hori tells the two idiots to make up. She doesn't know the real reason for the fight, but we and Yuki do. One thing's for sure, this love triangle is more complicated than a quadratic equation. Toru is helping Sakura, another girl from the student council, pick up some papers that blew away in the wind. Such a gentleman. But because of this, he's late to meet Miyamura. Hori, like a good friend, leaves them some popsicles, but Toru can't eat melon-flavored ones. The solution? Shove the popsicle on Sengoku, the student council president, and make fun of the color of his tongue. Afterward, there's some talk about the student council basically being a harem for Sengoku, but he swears it's all professional. The next day, the council members are wondering why Hori and Miyamura are taking so long to get the drinks. Toru immediately gets suspicious, thinking something is going on. His imagination runs wild, and to make it worse, when he opens his soda, the can explodes and soaks him. It's the universe telling him, "Chill out, dude." Later, at Hori's house, the air conditioner is broken. Miyamura casually mentions that he's going to sleep shirtless because of the heat. Hori turns red just imagining it and complains that he has no shame. She says she's never seen him get nervous or blush, unlike her. That's when Miyamura tells her he did once, when an old friend, Shindo, thought he and Hori were a couple. And speak of the devil, the said Shindo sends a text inviting them on a double date. Miyamura freaks out, calls his friend, tells him where to go, and hangs up on him. Hori is shocked to see this explosive side of him she never knew. The next day, the Shindo guy shows up and starts hitting on Hori on the street. Miyamura sees it, runs over, and slugs him in the face. We then find out that Shindo was Miyamura's first friend in middle school, the one who broke him out of his shell of loneliness. To wrap things up, Hori gets sick, delirious with fever. She holds Miyamura's hand and begs him not to leave, revealing a childhood trauma. He promises he'll stay, and while she's drifting off to sleep, he seizes the moment and drops the bomb. "I'm in love with you." But there's a catch. She was awake and heard everything. So now what? Pretend she didn't hear to keep the friendship or totally freak out?
I'm in love with you, Hori.
Oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh! Did he really just say that?
After the confession, Hori decides to skip school, pretending she's still sick. Her mind is racing, unsure of what to think. To make matters worse, her brother tells her he saw Miyamura talking to a girl from another school. Hori's jealousy mode is instantly activated. She goes back to school and starts avoiding Miyamura, but it doesn't last long. He confronts her, saying he knew she was awake, but Hori, instead of talking about the confession, gets straight to the point. Who was the other girl? He tries to explain it was Chika, Shindo's girlfriend, and he was just helping her out, but Hori doesn't want to hear it. She freaks out, throws her books at him, and storms off. Total soap opera drama. Later, Miyamura, like a good boy, goes to her house to return the book. Awkwardly, they both apologize, and just when it seems like a mood is about to improve, a bizarre figure enters the scene. Hori's dad, Kyosuke. The guy looks like a total bum, smoking inside the house and immediately making fun of Miyamura's piercings.
Kyouko? Hey, hon. These piercings are pretty dope. You do them yourself?
Yeah.
Her dad doesn't waste any time and bluntly asks if they're dating. Hori, without hesitation, says yes. Her dad jokes that he doesn't like guys with long hair, and Miyamura, dead serious, offers to cut it. Seeing the boy's desperation, her dad lightens up and says he's too handsome for his daughter. It's in that moment that Miyamura, in front of everyone, says he's in love with Hori. With their relationship status updated to dating, the two finally hold hands. It's official. Miyamura tells Toru the news, who is happy for his friend but secretly sad that he lost the race. Meanwhile, Sakura, who likes Toru, confides in Remi about feeling ugly in a very vulnerable moment. To cap it off, during a study session, Hori mentions that Izumi is coming over. Miyamura turns bright red, thinking she's going to start calling him by his first name, but it turns out to be her brother's friend. What a cute, awkward moment. Hori's dad is still at the house, being a pain in the neck for everyone. He gets the brilliant idea to take a bath with Miyamura, and obviously, discovers all his tattoos. As if that weren't enough, Miyamura ends up having to sleep over, sharing a futon with his father-in-law, who takes the opportunity to ask what he sees in Hori. The answer? That she doesn't judge a book by its cover. The next day, Hori and Miyamura are seen leaving her house together, and the gossip spreads through the school like wildfire. Everyone starts talking trash, wondering why the most popular girl would be with a gloomy weirdo. Bothered by the comments, Miyamura decides to take drastic action. He cuts his hair and ditches the glasses. The result? The weirdo becomes the hottest guy in school overnight. And now Hori is the one who has to deal with a bunch of girls hitting on her boyfriend. How the tables have turned. On a hangout with Shindo, Miyamura suddenly plants a kiss on Hori, just to taste a candy she was eating. A total alpha move. But the calm doesn't last long. A new girl, Honoka Sawada, shows up and starts stalking Miyamura, asking when he's going to break up with Hori. The situation gets even weirder when Hori confronts her and Sawada confesses. She's not in love with Miyamura, she's in love with Hori. Sawada becomes a shadow, following Miyamura everywhere. We find out she's Miyamura's neighbor and has a tragic past. Her older brother passed away the previous year, which explains why she feels uncomfortable around older guys, except for Miyamura. To end the episode, Hori and Miyamura are watching a horror movie. She complains that he never tries anything more. Heated, he then takes the initiative. The mood gets steamy, but Hori's dad, the master of ruining the moment, shows up and kills the vibe completely. Nobody deserves a father-in-law like that. Another day, another scene of the gang at the bookstore. Hori and Miyamura are stuck together like glue, leaving Toru to play third wheel. Yuki, noticing his predicament, finds a way to cheer him up. Back at school, she asks for his help taking out the trash and then invites him to buy a DVD. Toru realizes that ever since the other two became a couple, Yuki has been paying more attention to him. Out of nowhere, Sakura appears and bumps into Toru, staining her uniform. While Toru goes to find a solution, Sakura, who is nobody's fool, seizes the opportunity to ask Yuki if there's something going on between them. Yuki denies it, but instantly figures out what Sakura is up to. Toru returns, ever the gentleman, offering her his gym jacket to hide the stain. The girl turns red as a tomato, but accepts. Later, at the student council, she asks Sengoku what he sees in Remi. With complete sincerity, he says she seems fragile, which makes him want to protect her. But deep down, she's the one who protects him more, and this dynamic of mutual support inspires him. Sakura gets the message and decides to try harder. The next day, she musters up the courage to offer Toru some cookies she baked. Toru, being his oblivious self, accepts without a second thought. He eats one and drops this gem. This pink color. It's like your cheeks. I really like it. Sakura nearly explodes with embarrassment, and he tops it off by saying if she makes more, she can bring them to him. A master of seduction without even knowing it.
Cookies? So are you saying those are for me? Might just be my favorite.
Meanwhile, we see the other side of the coin with Yuki. At the bookstore, she gives up the last book she wanted to another girl, saying she seemed to want it more. It becomes clear that Yuki has a habit of letting the things she desires slip through her fingers. She tries to hide her sadness, but the truth is, she's the type who, no matter how badly she wants something, will never admit it out loud. She even receives cookies from Sakura, but eats them alone in a corner, wondering if she should just throw them away, even though they're delicious. Determined to change, she asks Miyamura for help baking a cake. He encourages her, saying that no one is born knowing how. The initial result is a disaster, but it's the thought that counts. When Toru shows up unexpectedly on the rooftop, his first instinct is to make fun of the lopsided cakes. But upon seeing Yuki's bandaged hands, he eats a piece without complaint, saying he can wait for the next batch. A simple gesture that lifts her spirits sky high.
Is this a cupcake?
Give it back!
I can't wait for the next.
I'm all over it.
Cut to Hori, who is going through hell. Miyamura is away on a family trip, and being the absent-minded guy he is, forgot his charger. No phone, no contact. The days drag on, and she goes about her routine as if he were there, constantly checking her phone for a message that never comes. Panic sets in when the news reports airport restrictions. She leaves the house aimlessly, and that's when Miyamura, who finally got a charge, sees her messages and starts running too. They reunite in an elevator, and Hori doesn't think twice. She clings to him in a hug, realizing just how hard the days without him were. Back to their routine. Hori's friends advise her to be a cuter girlfriend and not to scare Miyamura with horror movies. She tries, but Miyamura gets so terrified that her every attempt to get closer is a bigger failure than the last. He asks for some time alone, and she immediately thinks it's over, but he was just wiping away his tears of fear. He finds her on the bed, heartbroken, and asks if she was doing all of that for him. He apologizes for not realizing, and Hori tells him to stop apologizing. He calls her a dummy, saying he didn't fall for a normal girl, but for her. They decide to finish the movie, and she throws herself on him, saying she wants to hear his heartbeat. Things heat up. She feels a warmth and wants to share it with him. And to cap it all off, we find out Hori bit Miyamura on the neck, warning him that if he cuts his hair again, everyone will see the mark. Shindo wonders why she'd do that, but it's obvious, isn't it? The girl was marking her territory. Sometime later, we see a younger Miyamura alone, watching other boys playing soccer. It's a flashback in his mind, where he talks with his current self. The past Miyamura hated everything and everyone, feeling so lonely, he even considered saying goodbye to this world. But his present self comforts him, saying it's not time to die yet. He promises that if he just waits a little longer, he'll make precious friends and that someone very special is waiting to share his joys and sorrows. It was just a dream, but a profound one that shows how much he has changed. Now, it's Remi's turn to tell the story of how she and Sengoku started dating. To her, he's a super sweet guy who hates telling people off. Everyone at school idolizes him as the council president, which he enjoys but also feels the pressure of. She, completely in love, pretends to be a damsel in distress so he can be the hero. And even if he's scared to death, he always pushes himself for her sake. But in the beginning, it was a different story. At school, all the boys thought Remi was beautiful, but since she had a line of suitors, she was very distant. Sengoku, on the other hand, just saw both her and Sakura as normal girls. Overhearing this, Remi decided to approach him. She struck up a conversation about books, and days later, he showed up with a stack of short stories to lend her. He even invited her to see his collection at his house, a room crammed with books and dust. There, she takes an interest in a book about the end of the world. She says she'd spend her last day eating sweets and spending money. He finds her idea curious and out of the blue, compliments her hairstyle.
Your hair, it's up higher than it usually is, right?
I just felt like it.
Nice call. Looks good.
Back at school, the mood has already shifted. Sengoku mentions that a friend of his has a crush on her, but Remi couldn't care less and asks if she can visit his house again. There, nervously, she asks what he would do if the world ended tomorrow. He replies that he'd confess to the person he loves. She teases him for blushing, but confesses the feeling is mutual. And just like that, the couple was formed. In the present, they still trade books. She knows he cries while reading, and she loves both his calm personality and his fragility. Returning to our main couple, Hori is painting Miyamura's toenails blue. In a thoughtless prank, he steps on her head. She's shocked, but says it's okay. Hori finds it curious how he's so rough with his friends but so gentle with her, and even thinks it would be sexy if he treated her poorly now and then. The next day, Miyamura tries to be the bad boy she asked for, but he's a terrible actor. Everyone immediately figures out it was Hori's idea. The perfect chance arises in the chemistry lab. Miyamura flips out, grabs her head, and starts yelling, pretending to be furious, right in front of some girls who run off terrified. He thinks it was a failure, but Hori loved the little scene. Days later, everyone is still talking about the fight, but Yuki has other things on her mind. A guy just confessed to her. She considers turning him down but feels bad about it. The gang comes up with the brilliant idea of getting a fake boyfriend, and who better than Toru? He agrees immediately. Hand in hand, they go to meet the suitor, and when the guy shows up, he's drop-dead gorgeous, way better looking than Toru. He introduces himself as Yanagi, and poor Toru is left speechless. Yanagi is super polite, understands she has a boyfriend, and even compliments Toru's appearance before leaving. Everyone is shocked that Yuki turned down a guy like that. Her reason? He's too handsome. Poor Toru is traumatized. He didn't even know people that good-looking existed. Remi reveals she knows Yanagi and drops a key detail. He's practically blind without his glasses. Yuki runs after him and suggests he must have been mistaken and meant to confess to Hori, who is prettier, but Yanagi confirms it was no mistake. He's liked Yuki for a long time. At that moment, their friends arrive and the scene turns into a comedy of errors, with Yanagi confusing everyone, proving he desperately needs his glasses. Miyamura's hair is getting longer, and Hori decides to play hairdresser, trying out different hairstyles on him. The problem is, this attracts the attention of other girls, and Hori, who started it all, explodes with jealousy. On the way home, she's pouting and won't talk to him. Miyamura asks if it's because of the other girls, and she denies it, but it's written all over her face. Suddenly, an old friend of Miyamura's from middle school, who is also an acquaintance of Shindo, shows up. He acts like they're old pals, but in reality, he treats Miyamura horribly, calling him a loser and criticizing him for letting his girlfriend carry his things. Miyamura stands there silently, frozen. That's when Hori steps in. At her breaking point, she asks if they're done with their little show, tells the guys to get lost, and proceeds to beat them up. Afterward, much calmer, she's let out all her stress. The beaten up guy finds Shindo and tells him about Miyamura and the monster girl. Shindo immediately realizes it's Hori and warns him not to mess with them again. Meanwhile, Miyamura tends to Hori's scraped knuckles, silently grateful to finally have someone who cares about him and fights for him. The next day, Hori asks him to treat her badly again, just a little bit. Miyamura refuses, but Shindo shows up and, completely misunderstanding, tells him to be a man and do what his girlfriend asks. Miyamura tells him to mind his own business. Shindo then assumes it's some kind of fetish and offers to help, but obviously, it's something only Miyamura can do. He drags Hori home, grumbling that it's not what Shindo is thinking. On the way, they pass by a store and run right into the same guys from. A few days later, Hori and Miyamura run into Tanihara on the street. Hori immediately goes on the defensive, ready for a fight, but the guy tries to be nice, despite the awkward tension in the air. She freaks out and yells at him not to even think about stealing Miyamura from her. According to Hori, ever since they made up, the two of them have been acting super weird, all clingy and huggy. Tanihara tells her to chill out, saying they're closer now, but it's not like he's Shindo. And just like that, Hori now thinks Miyamura is having an affair with Shindo too. She asks him point blank if it's true, and Miyamura admits his friend has been sleeping over, but swears it's not what she's thinking. And speak of the devil, Shindo himself shows up out of nowhere. Hori, with no filter, asks if he's close with her boyfriend. The chaos is official. For Hori, the problem isn't another girl, but his guy friends. She even warns him, if you're going to fall for someone else, at least make it a girl. To avoid more drama, Miyamura tells his friends they need to keep their distance for a while.
You all need to stay out of my bubble. From now on, I need you to keep your distance. I won't go in public. I'll hold it.
Meanwhile, Yuki is out shopping with her sister. Out of the blue, they bump into Yanagi, who's finally wearing glasses, and wow, Yuki's sister is shocked to learn she's the one who turned him down. Yanagi is happy to see her, but mentions that Toru might get mad. Yuki lies, saying he wouldn't care, and the rumor that they're dating spreads like wildfire. Sakura, who had a crush on Toru, is devastated. Yuki confesses to Remy that it's all a lie, and Remy doesn't hold back, calling her out for being selfish and only lying because deep down, she wished the fake relationship was real. Yuki feels terrible, skips school, and ignores everyone. Then, she gets a text from Toru. Sakura confessed to him. The next day, Yuki returns to school. On the rooftop, Toru tells her he rejected Sakura. He drops a brilliant metaphor about the snow, Yuki's name, get it? And spring, saying that snow melts by its own choice, not because spring commands it. Yuki gets the message and finally smiles. The scene cuts to Sakura, completely crushed, crying on the floor while Sengoku tries to comfort her. What a bummer. Another day at school and the gang discovers that Shu is a completely different person at home, much calmer and more responsible. On the student council, he's the resident jokester, while Yanagi is super formal. Shu even tries to get Yanagi to loosen up, but it's a no-go. That is, unless he's with Yuki. He manages to be more casual with her. Miyamura, overhearing the conversation, goes into jealous mode and puts Yanagi on his blacklist, thinking he's going to steal his friends. Yanagi notices the paranoia and assures him he's not interested in his friends, leaving Miyamura blushing with embarrassment. A short time later, the two are already walking together, as if nothing happened. In another story, Honoka makes a popularity ranking of the guys. Shu comes in last for being too loud. Poor guy. To make matters worse, Shu gets sick, loses his voice, and in this state, ends up helping Honoka carry some boxes in silence. She gets it in her head that he's mad at her because of the ranking. The next day, he's all better, and as loud as ever, which startles Honoka, but at least she's relieved he's not mad. Now, on to some family drama. Shu's sister, Motoko, is down in the dumps because her grades are a disaster, and her teachers are making fun of her dreams of getting into a good school. At home, she's frustrated, but Shu, with his laid-back attitude, notices how hard she's trying. Then he proves he's a good brother. First, he offers to throw down with the teacher, and then he asks Hori to be her tutor. Hori agrees in a heartbeat and goes to their house. Motoko is surprised to see how nice Hori is. They start talking, and Hori realizes that despite his distant act, Shu cares a lot about his sister. Deep down, the siblings are just afraid the other hates them. The tutoring session turns into a friendship, and Motoko finally find some support. Christmas is coming and the holiday spirit is in the air. Hori's dad is more excited than a kid waiting for Santa, except he wants Miyamura for Christmas. He insists Hori invite her boyfriend over, but Miyamura is swamped with work at his family's pastry shop. Meanwhile, during a chat with friends, Toru accidentally lets the cat out of the bag. He likes Yuki, but he's cool with their friends with benefits vibe for now. The group is shocked, thinking they were already dating. Later, Yuki goes to Toru's house to beat a video game. He gets all flustered, trying to keep his family from seeing her. Suddenly, a woman taller than him, the housemaid, walks into the room. She gets straight to the point. Don't try anything funny, which gets Yuki thinking, what if he did? The mood gets super cute and awkward. Back at school, Remy is pressuring Sengoku to go to her house for Christmas, but he's terrified because her house is full of taxidermied insects. It's his worst nightmare. Hori, for her part, starts freaking out over the idea of graduation and what comes next. On Christmas Day, Miyamura manages to make a quick stop at her house, much to her family's delight. On the way back, as they walk together, Hori opens up about the future, saying she wants to stay with him after graduation, and Miyamura, without even blinking, pops the question, so will you marry me? He gets a little embarrassed, but Hori doesn't hesitate and declares herself the happiest future wife in the world, even if she is egocentric and annoying.
Will you marry me, Kyouko Hori?
I swear to the moon and back, I'll make you happy.
What?
The final scene is on New Year's, with the two at a shrine, promising to be together forever. A perfect ending. The mood is one of farewell. The gang is helping Yuki pack up her things, and Hori realizes her house has become a storage unit for everyone's junk. They even find some of Shu's CDs in the mess. Meanwhile, on the student council, Remy is daydreaming about spring and wants to go to a zoo, but the idea of needing a car to go far away gets her a little down. She realizes that at any moment, everyone could go their separate ways. Sakura, sensing the vibe, gives a heartfelt speech about eternal friendship, promising they'll never become strangers. Later, Hori falls asleep on the couch and Miyamura becomes her pillow. In that moment, he has an existential crisis, like Doctor Strange seeing all possible futures. What if the accident with Sota never happened? Yuki and Toru wouldn't be friends. Their group would never have formed, and he probably would have been alone until the end. Hori would be in a different crowd, and they wouldn't even talk. Basically, his high school life would have been a total bust. When Hori wakes up, he tells her about his weird thoughts, and she, super chill, replies that it's just fate. Graduation day arrives. Sengoku gives the speech, but someone sneezes in the middle of it, and everyone cracks up. Miyamura escapes to the rooftop and has a reckoning with his past self, that emo kid with long hair. He finally admits that he's changed, that he's made friends, got a girlfriend, and is at peace with who he used to be. It's his redemption. To cap it all off, Miyamura and Hori go out for sushi. He reflects on how she broke him out of his shell and showed him a whole new world. He wants to give her everything in return, but Hori just smiles and hurries him along. For now, instead of giving her the sky, he decides a cake with lots of whipped cream will do just fine.
I could give you this very sky as a gift. I would in a heartbeat. I know what you'd like. A cake with tons of whipped cream on top.
But the gang isn't the least bit excited. They know an even bigger challenge is on its way, the sports festival. Shu walks into the student council room all happy with the festival forms, and the reaction is pure despair. The group even starts doing a rain dance to try and get the event canceled. Each class draws for teams, mixing boys and girls. It's a bit weird competing against your own friends, but it's also fun. Toru and Miyamura end up on one team, while Sengoku and Hori are on another. Hori, super competitive, already announces her team is stacked. Sakura, on the other hand, is depressed. She has zero rhythm and is being forced to be a cheerleader. The only thing cheering her up is being on the same team as Toru and Remy, even if it means embarrassing herself in front of him. On the way home, Hori says Miyamura should take a page from her brother's book and take the festival seriously. He confesses he doesn't have good memories of these events, but Hori encourages him to run the 100-meter dash, saying he's super fast. She admits she's not good at sports herself, but wants to have more fun than last year. Miyamura asks if she'll cheer for him, even though they're on different teams. Hori says she'll be watching from afar, and that's enough to light a fire in him. Suddenly, Miyamura is super motivated, leaving everyone speechless. The whole gang is giving it their all. Sakura is struggling to learn the choreography, but this year, she wants Toru to see her. Yuki notices her slump and decides to help, showing her the steps. From the window, Sengoku watches them, thinking about how they're having fun even though they're on rival teams. But his vibe completely changes in cooking class. Sengoku and Remy are a total disaster, making a mess of everything and not knowing how to do anything. Sakura nearly loses her mind trying to give them simple tasks, but they manage to screw everything up. In the end, the class had already predicted the chaos and left a pre-made curry for them to just heat up. They can't even do that right. Seeing the two of them totally depressed, thinking no one will ever want to marry them, Sakura drops a gem. Don't worry, if no one wants you, I'll marry you both. Everyone agrees she's total wife material. Back at the festival, Yuki is handing out the team t-shirts. Miyamura asks for the largest size to hide him, but Yuki teases him, saying she's going to beat him. This time, he doesn't let it slide and gets competitive. Everyone starts asking for different sizes, and Yuki tells the group to figure it out themselves. But it's not all fun and games. In the classroom, Hori sees Miyamura talking to another girl, and her killer instinct is immediately activated. Even Toru senses the danger in the air. At home, Miyamura tries to explain he just lent the girl a book, but he knows he's in trouble. Hori says it's fine, but that when she gets jealous, she gets truly scary. Later, she tells Yuki it wasn't jealousy, it was killer instinct. Yuki asks if Miyamura ever gets like that, and Hori realizes he doesn't. Right at that moment, Mizo-chi shows up where Hori is painting, and seeing she might be cold, lends her his jacket. A little later, Miyamura arrives and sees the jacket. "Whose is this?" he asks. When Hori explains, he takes off his own jacket on the spot and gives it to her. She comments that his is warmer, and he replies, "That's because I was wearing it." He even puts on the other guy's jacket, but when he sees Mizo-chi coming back, Miyamura hides, hugs Hori from behind, and then gets rid of the enemy jacket. When Mizo-chi leaves, Hori figures it all out. He was jealous.
Are you jealous?
The big day of the sports festival has arrived. The weather is perfect, which only makes poor Sengoku even more depressed. The fact that he even showed up is a victory in itself. Hori is happy the day is a bit cool, so more people are wearing long sleeves, and Miyamura can feel more comfortable. The two teams are fiercely competitive. It's time for the girls' obstacle course, and by coincidence, Hori is up against Remy. Miyamura and Toru cheer for their team, and Remy uses this to taunt Hori. "I'm gonna do my best for Miyamura, and if I win, he's mine." The taunt works. Hori loses focus, gets a late start, and to top it off, she's a disaster at sports. Remy wins easily. Hori feels pathetic, but suddenly Miyamura starts shouting, cheering for her, even though she's on the rival team. It's a super embarrassing moment, but it gives Hori the boost she needs to finish the race. Remy says they seem so in love and that she'll let her have him for now. Miyamura goes to check on Hori, and she, completely embarrassed, tells him to shut up, but thanks him for cheering. The competition continues. During the tug of war, Honoka's team loses to Hori's. Next up is the relay race. Toru and Shu are neck and neck, and Miyamura yells with all his might, which inspires Sakura to yell too. Miyamura's shout, a rare occurrence, gives Toru an extra burst of energy, and the two end up tying for first place. Then comes the cheerleading performance. Hori takes the stage, and the girls at school go wild, while the guys are utterly disappointed. Even Miyamura can't hide his look of shock. The rival team, the West Girls, puts on a super cute performance to keep up. The battle lines are drawn, boys cheering for the West, girls cheering for the East. After it's all over, a teacher asks Miyamura to substitute for a boy who got sick. He feels insecure, remembering how he was made fun of in sports when he was younger. But things are different now. He has people cheering for him. In the scavenger hunt, Hori and Miyamura grab their clues at the same time and freeze. The item they need is a guy like Sengoku, who was conveniently hiding nearby. They drag the poor guy to the finish line. The final competition is the cavalry battle. Sengoku gets on his classmates' shoulders and seems finally motivated. Miyamura gets on the opposing team. It's a hilarious scene, each girl cheering for the other's boyfriend. The fight is intense until Miyamura uses a dirty trick. He asks Sengoku, "Who's the girl sitting on your shoulders?" making the guy turn his head on a pure reflex. It's enough for him to lose his balance, a very anticlimactic victory.
But have you noticed that strange girl on your shoulder?
Looks like Team West takes the win for the cavalry battle!
At the end of the day, the East team wins. Miyamura's nose is all sunburned, and as he leaves the restroom, he sees Hori from a distance, and for some reason, she's now dressed as an actual cheerleader. She tells him it's for the group photo. Miyamura turns beet red but manages to hide it with his sunburn. He thinks to himself that he's always had a cheerleader just for him, supporting him in everything. Hori asks if she looks pretty, imitating Remy. He replies very seriously, "You look extremely beautiful." She turns red as a tomato and runs off, calling him a dork. He smiles, happy to have finally experienced his first and last school festival and to have had real fun.
Today wasn't just my last sports day, and it was a lot of fun.
After the festival adrenaline rush, the gang switches back to student mode, studying at Hori's house under a warm kotatsu. The problem? Everyone falls asleep, and when they wake up, they're trapped in a human knot of legs. It's like a game of Twister gone very wrong, and no one can move without hurting someone else. Another time, Hori's dad, Kyosuke, simply kidnaps Sengoku off the street and brings him home. Hori wakes up to find the student council president sleeping on her couch, with no idea why. The confusion only escalates when Hori realizes they're running late and completely clueless about the situation. She suggests that Miyamura and Sengoku take a shower together to save time. Miyamura, of course, has to invent an excuse to hide his tattoos. The tension rises when Hori finds a suspicious text on his phone, something like, "I love you," sent by someone named Shindo. Jealous girlfriend mode activated. Miyamura, not understanding her anger, tries to calm her down with tangerines. When she's about to confront him about the message, he surprises her by stealing a slice from her mouth, just like he did with the candy at the beginning of their relationship. This awakens Hori's killer instinct all over again. The week continues with more bizarre encounters, including Hori's and Sengoku's dads reliving their high school beefs in the living room, but the episode ends on a high note. While they're studying, Hori feeds Miyamura a tangerine slice. Suddenly, he takes her hand and licks her finger to clean it. Then, he goes back to studying as if nothing happened, leaving Hori completely stunned and speechless. This guy is unpredictable. Now the focus shifts to Shu and his sister. She has a crush on a boy named Kitahara, and Shu activates overprotective, jealous big brother mode. When Kitahara comes over to study, Shu does everything to ruin the mood. He stands guard, serves bitter tea that tastes like poison, and even gets out the family swords to welcome the boy. Motoko is frustrated. She thinks Kitahara is only interested in her because of Shu, or worse, that he's interested in Shu himself. Her self-esteem hits rock bottom. Meanwhile, Shu's friends try to give him advice, but only create more confusion, including a giant misunderstanding involving Sengoku. Later, we get the most cliché scene in all of anime, running to school with toast in your mouth. Shu does it and bumps into Yuki, but things escalate, and soon a bunch of people show up with increasingly strange foods, turning the cliché into a running gag. When they arrive, they discover they're way too early and the school is empty, except for a group of middle schoolers on a tour. And guess who's in the group? Kitahara. Shu panics and hides, but Hori and Remy accidentally give away his hiding spot by shouting his last name. Kitahara recognizes him and Shu freaks out, yelling at the kid to get lost. A teacher shows up and saves the day, dragging Shu away. Afterwards, his friends finally put the pieces together. Kitahara is his sister's crush. The mess is made, and Shu has failed miserably at being the cool, mysterious brother. It seems the gang decided to have a sleepover at Sengoku's place. Shu insists on sleeping in the bed, despite the mess. Toru says he'll sleep on the floor, but first, he needs to get Miyamura out of the way. In the process, Miyamura nearly rips off his pajamas, ruining his plan to hide his tattoos, but Toru manages to stop him. In the end, everyone settles in, except for the host, who's been left with no space. Sengoku tries to wake the freeloaders, but they're sleeping like logs. Shu gets up to go to the bathroom and, seeing the scene, solves the problem by yelling. The new plan is to put Miyamura in the bed, but carrying him is a mission. After a lot of effort, they succeed. Sengoku, remembering that Miyamura is always covering himself up, gets curious and decides to take a peek, but right at that moment, Shu comes back, catches him in the act, and thinks something else is going on. Sengoku tries to explain he just wanted to undress his friend for a good reason, which only makes things worse. In the end, Toru drags a table over and makes room for everyone to sleep on the floor. The next morning, everyone wakes up, except for Sleeping Beauty, Miyamura. Toru explains that on his days off, he sleeps until the afternoon, and Sengoku has the brilliant idea of waking him up. The whole group jumps on him, and Miyamura finally jolts awake, sensing danger. In the hallway, Sengoku asks Toru what Miyamura is hiding. His friend plays it off, saying he has a bazooka in his stomach or something. At school, Sengoku doesn't give up. He asks Miyamura if he's hot and suggests they swap sweaters. Miyamura, being naive, almost falls for it, but Toru drops some things on the floor at the perfect moment to distract everyone. Defeated, Sengoku asks him point blank why he doesn't like changing in front of others. Miyamura finally understands the harassment, tells him to stop, and runs off to Hori's house.
The class president's bullying me!
That's a school sweater you have on right now.
Later, Remy and Sengoku walk home together. She's freezing, and since he's not getting her hints, she flat out asks him to hold her hand. Then, she asks for a hug, and he gives her a warm one. But when she leans in for a kiss, he kills the mood. not on the street. Days later, Sakura gives Sengoku a gift for Remy. Toru and Shu see it and immediately assume he's cheating. But the truth is, it was just some cookies Sakura promised her if Remy improved in math. Even though she didn't hit the target, she tried hard, and the two end up eating them together in a super sweet moment. After exams, we see Sakura, the model student who relieves stress by reading manga. To her dismay, this week's issue is sold out everywhere. She's about to lose it when Yanagi appears and, like an angel, offers her his copy. Sakura is so grateful she compares him to a character from the manga, but then dies of embarrassment when she remembers the character is a girl. The following week, they meet again, but some mean girls comment that they don't look good together. Sakura, who had forgotten about those cruel comments, backs away. She explains that the girls get jealous because he's too nice, and Yanagi, completely clueless, says she is too. To make the confusion worse, he invites her to go shopping for new glasses frames. Elsewhere, Yuki is reading and fantasizing about what it would be like if her friends swapped bodies. Her imagination runs wild. Later, in the library, she makes a noise and startles Yanagi, who drops his books. As she helps him, he touches her hand and comments that it's warm. Yuki feels a shiver. Curious, she tries the same thing with Toru, who is much more aggressive and even rubs his cold hand on her face. She gets annoyed and concludes that no one understands her. Meanwhile, Miyamura finds Honoka being ignored by her classmates. Without a second thought, he approaches the girls, teasing her, and with a sinister look, mutters, "Die, you ugly hags," before walking away as if nothing happened. He advises Honoka to just ignore them. At school, Yuki and Remy find Honoka alone and invite her to join their group. Later, Honoka tries to fix a club poster her classmates hung in the wrong place. Sengoku and Remy show up, and instead of just telling her to take it down, they help her put the poster on the main bulletin board where everyone will see it. Thanks to this, the club gets new members, and Honoka's classmates finally approach her, grateful.
But that's the only bite we've gotten so far.
Did the next one who sees it actually joins?
Yanagi loses a contact lens, and Toru helps him look for it on his knees. Moment and imagines a completely different scene. After they find the lens, Yanagi mentions that someone ran past, but he couldn't see who it was. The next day, he skips school, and Hori is frustrated, as this was her chance to see him. It turns out Yanagi is having trouble waking up on time. His teacher threatened to put up posters of his face around the school if he's late again. Anxious, he can't sleep properly. So, his friends come up with a plan. Operation Phone Alarm. In the morning, they call him non-stop until he finally gets up. He thanks them at school, even though he was super rude on the call. Another time, Sengoku gets depressed because Yanagi speaks to him formally, which in his mind means they aren't real friends. Toru tries to explain that Yanagi is like that with everyone, but it's no use. The situation only improves when Yanagi himself, sensing the mood, makes an effort to speak more casually with Sengoku, who is overjoyed. Later, Yanagi confesses to Remy that he wishes he could be more direct with Sengoku, like she is with him. He even tries to practice being silly with Toru by tickling him. Miyamura walks in at that exact moment and asks if they're playing troublemakers. The confusion escalates when Sengoku vents that he wants to be a better friend, and Miyamura thinks he's devaluing their friendship. Yanagi defends Sengoku, and Toru yells that the two of them are getting along too well. The whole thing becomes such a mess that Sengoku has to drag Miyamura away to give him a talking to. Let's get to teacher Yasuda's story. The guy was taking a nap in the teacher's lounge, and some female students, sensing an opportunity, decided to play hairdresser and give him an exotic new hairstyle. The teacher next to him even wakes him up so he won't be late for class, but he's in a foul mood, so she decides not to pick a fight and doesn't mention his new look. When he enters the classroom, he immediately starts complaining that the class average has dropped, but no one cares. Everyone is more focused on his new hairdo. Hori tries to stand up and say something, but her courage fails her. Miyamura tries too, but fails miserably. Yuki, who arrived late, is the savior. As soon as she walks in, she can't hold back her laughter and asks what the hell he did to his hair. At that point, the entire class explodes with laughter. He only gets the joke when Yuki shows him a mirror. Back in the teacher's lounge, he's pissed. Not because of the hairstyle, but because some girls messed with him and he didn't even notice. To make matters worse, he can't find his classroom keys. Guess who's responsible? A teacher named Nakami Mei, a super spacey guy who swears he left the key in its spot but then finds it in his own pocket. By the way, he also found the bicycle key he lost months ago. This guy being in charge of the school's keys is just asking for trouble.
Oh, my bad, man. Wait,
It's the key to my bike lock that I thought I lost over summer break.
As the students walk past him, Nakamine sticks his hand in his pocket again, and a shower of keys falls out. The kids are impressed, thinking it's some kind of magic trick, and now teacher Yasuda is jealous of the admiration he received. Later, Yuki finds a trail of keys on the floor, like Hansel and Gretel, and they obviously belong to Nakamine. She asks if he has a hole in his pocket, and luckily, she carries a sewing kit. The two go into a room so she can fix his pocket. Inside, Yuki asks if he remembers her since he was her teacher in their first year. He apologizes, saying he's terrible with names and faces, but promises to remember her from now on. Outside, Toru and Yasuda are spying, and Toru gets a little suspicious because when a button fell off his shirt, Yuki just told him to sew it at home. Yasuda rubs salt in the wound, suggesting that maybe she doesn't like him that much. The scene gets weird when Nakamine goes to thank her, and Yuki asks to see his hands. Toru, jealous, makes a noise outside to ruin the mood. When Toru asks what they were doing, Yuki says she's obsessed with palm reading and immediately grabs his hand, saying his lines are thin. He asks if she's not going to read his fortune, but she admits she has no idea how. The cute moment turns into an argument when he suggests she not do that with other people so she doesn't seem weird, but that she could keep doing it with him. She completely misunderstands and thinks he called her weird. The next day, teacher Yasuda overhears some suspicious whispers from the student council. Things like, "It's bigger than we thought, and the bigger the better." He walks in, already thinking the worst, but it's actually just a giant cake from Miyamura. Still, he takes everyone for a school counseling session. Later, Hori and Sengoku end up falling asleep in the council room and get locked in. Everyone's phone is dead. Hori panics because she wanted to buy carrots, but now it's too late. In the end, the one who saves them is teacher Yasuda, but instead of helping, he starts implying something happened between them and that he needs to conduct an inspection on Hori. Right at that moment, the other teacher shows up, tells him to knock it off, and says she's going to have a very serious talk with him. The next day, Hori tells Miyamura everything. His reaction? He's not worried about Hori, but about Sengoku, who was alone with her.
You okay, Mr. President? I heard you were stuck in a room with Hori.
Do tell what you're trying to imply.
To top it off, a rumor starts spreading around school that the teacher's lecture was so harsh that teacher Yasuda had a complete personality change. Meanwhile, we're introduced to a guy named Watabe, who's kind of obsessed with Miyamura. He used to be into the long-haired, mysterious Miyamura, but now that he's cut his hair and seems happier, Watabe has become his personal paparazzo, taking pictures of him all the time. At home, Hori, who seems to have an olfactory superpower, emerges from the shadows like a predator and says Miyamura smells different. She analyzes him and concludes that, besides the usual scent of Toru and Shindo, today there's a hint of Watabe. Miyamura is weirded out by this bizarre ability and decides he also needs to learn to identify people by their smell. His first test subject is Shindo. He tells his friend to close his eyes and, without warning, sniffs him to memorize his scent. Back at school, Watabe reveals that his fixation isn't a crush. It's more like admiration. He likes seeing Miyamura happy, hanging out with his girlfriend, or just existing. He's a true fan, but this admiration is marking its territory. At Hori's house, she complains that Watabe's scent is too strong. In the middle of the discussion, Miyamura has the brilliant idea to hug her out of nowhere so he can smell her. Hori's reaction is the most unexpected of all. She thought he was going to hit her and got a little excited about the idea. Yep, when she realizes it was just a hug, she gets disappointed and starts throwing a tantrum. The confusion leads to a real fight. The next day, Miyamura shows up with a bruised face, and shortly after, Hori walks in, also with a bruised face. The story is chaotic. She hit him, and when she left, she walked straight into a wall. Now, the two aren't speaking, and the mood is heavy on the whole group. No one can stand their stubbornness anymore. Toru tries to advise Miyamura, who doesn't even know why Hori is so mad. On the other side, Hori vents to her friends, but her anger won't go away. The drama continues to the point where they don't even talk during group projects. Finally, Miyamura finds Hori hiding, crying her eyes out. She confesses, saying he probably hates her, and that there's no guarantee he'll love her forever. He, with all the patience in the world, tells her she's a big dummy and that he loves her way more than she can imagine, so it wouldn't be that easy to hate her. He even adds that even monsters can cry their eyes out, which breaks the ice. She punches him, but the couple finally makes up. Sometime later, Miyamura shows up at school wearing one of Shindo's hoodies. Guess what? Hori sniffs him out immediately and realizes the scent isn't his. The next day, when he's back in his own clothes, she smells him again and sighs with relief, saying this is Miyamura's scent. And to top it off, she confesses his scent is her favorite. With a declaration like that, Miyamura doesn't think twice, just kisses her without warning, and they head to class together. Valentine's Day is coming, and Hori's friend Honoka is on a mission. She invades Miyamura's house to try and get him to tell her Hori's favorite color for gift wrapping, but he just wants her to leave. At school, Remy pressures Hori to make some chocolates for Miyamura. The problem is, his family owns a pastry shop, and she's a disaster in the kitchen. Giving him store-bought chocolates from another place would be weird, Remy insists, saying it's the thought that counts. Meanwhile, a girl from Honoka's class reveals she has a secret crush on Shu, the green-haired guy, and asks for help delivering her chocolates. Honoka is shocked that anyone likes Shu, but agrees to be the love messenger. Poor Shu, meanwhile, is bummed about probably being the only one who won't get anything. Seeing this, Honoka goes up to him and in the most awkward way possible, asks if he likes chocolate, leaving everyone confused. Inspired by the group, Hori decides to take on the kitchen challenge. She asks Sakura for help, who recommends a beginner's cookbook. The first attempt isn't great, the chocolate comes out a bit bitter, but her family and Sakura encourage her, saying it's not bad and that Miyamura will like it just because she made it. Finally, the big day arrives. Miyamura is handing out chocolates from his family's shop to everyone and plans to meet Hori at his place later. Honoka gives her gift to Hori, revealing she asked Miyamura for help with the ribbon color. Hori is touched by the gesture. Yuki also hands out her chocolates, which don't smell very good, and inside Toru's box, she hides a secret gift for Sakura in a super sweet gesture. When Hori arrives at Miyamura's house, her anxiety kicks in. She's already freaking out, thinking he's going to lie and say her chocolates are delicious, but the surprise is on her. He made an entire cake for her. After trying and loving the cake, it's her turn. With her heart in her throat, she hands over her slightly bitter chocolates. Miyamura tries them and loves them. He says it's exactly the level of sweetness he likes.
Are they good?
They're very good. Just sweet enough. Do you approve?
What? Everything you make is delicious. Of course I approve.
They both turn beet red, relieved and happy, realizing they were nervous for nothing. Unfortunately, not everyone had the same luck. Honoka's friend chickened out and couldn't bring herself to give the chocolates to Shu. Seeing her friend sad, Honoka has an idea. She offers to take the chocolates and promises to eat them all. In return, she also gives her friend some chocolates, which were originally courtesy gifts, but which they now both agree are friendship chocolates. Time for a flashback to understand how Hori's parents met. Back in high school, Kyosuke was the typical popular, slightly arrogant guy who changed girlfriends every week. One day, he hides his motorcycle in a forbidden spot, but Yuriko, Hori's mom, instead of ratting him out, simply suggests a better hiding place. And what do you know? It works. The teachers discover the old spot, and he gets away with it. Later, he sees Yuriko being treated coldly by the student council president, Sengoku's father. Kyosuke, all protective, goes to confront him, and the president tells him to fix his uniform before thanking him. After that, Kyosuke and Yuriko finally have a real conversation. He's charmed by her, so relapsed that she doesn't even care about the council's pressure. The decisive moment happens when a jealous girl confronts Yuriko. Kyosuke swoops in to defend her, but Yuriko stops him. She says a man doesn't hit a woman, but since she's not a man, she slaps the other girl across the face with a smile. It was right then that Kyosuke knew she was the one.
I know. Ooh. That's when I knew I was gonna make Yuriko my wife one day.
And it's with this story that he advises Miyamura to endure Hori's slaps as proof of love. Back in the present, the Hori family is basically a reality show. Hori gets the urge to try on some of her dad's old clothes and gets pissed when he implies she's gained weight. The drama escalates when she fights with her brother over his messy room. Miyamura tries to be the UN diplomat in the middle of the family feud, but only makes things worse. The situation becomes even more chaotic when they start playing Space Trip, and Hori gets way too into her role as captain, kicking her brother off the ship. In the end, everyone is crying, and Miyamura has no idea what to do, looking like a confused John Travolta meme. Another day at Hori's house, and Miyamura arrives to find she's still dead asleep. After she finally wakes up, she gets ready so slowly that Miyamura goes upstairs to check on her and finds her asleep again, already in her uniform. Seeing her hair is a mess, Miyamura, revealing a secret talent for hairdressing, starts styling it for her. When Hori finally sees herself in the mirror, she has an existential crisis because the hairstyle doesn't match her uniform, but she ends up liking it because everyone at school compliments her new look. Miyamura is all proud and starts thinking about who his next client will be. Later, the gang decides to deep clean the student council room, which is messier than a teenager's bedroom. The cleaning turns into a competition of who's the strongest, and Sengoku is humiliated to see that everyone, even Miyamura, can carry more weight than him. In the middle of the mess, they find a postcard that gives them the idea to all go to the beach reach. Then the episode goes into a Marvel what-if mode, showing how the group could have met in a completely different way if things had happened differently. It would be a universe where Hori and Miyamura barely spoke, and the group would have taken much longer to form, but in the end, Hori is sure they would have found each other anyway. It's fate, you know? Cut to graduation day. The vibe is different. Hori and Miyamura, who barely looked at each other at the beginning, now walk hand in hand without any shame. The episode ends sometime later, with Hori calling Miyamura to show off her new super short hair. He, to show he's with her through thick and thin, shows up soon after with short hair too. Kyosuke, always unfiltered, asks if they're breaking up, but Miyamura explains that with Hori, he's always experiencing new things. And with that perfect couple sync, their story comes to an end.